He's big. All right, let's get that out of the way right now, because that's the most obvious thing in the world. He's really big. Like, you didn't need a YouTube video to tell you that this guy is enormous, did you?
Yes.
Okay, well, maybe you did. He is enormous. His vehicle mode is a planet. Big. Thing is, though, there are many other ways that this guy could kill you. And in this video, I'm going to look at all of his powers and all of his abilities. Check out my video on his origins if you haven't already, and let's get stuck right in. So how big is Unicron exactly? Well, it seems to differ between the continuities. The best indication of his size that I could find was this shot where he's standing on top of Cybertron, and that gives you a pretty good idea of how big. Like, he's mountainous. All right, just for funsies, let's take the Earth's diameter and make a circle 7,926 pixels in diameter. That gives us this. So 1 pixel per mile scale. So at this scale, Everest is 5.5 miles above sea level, so it's not even 6 pixels high. You see this line? That's 6 pixels high. Olympus Mons, the tallest mountain on Mars, is 16 miles high. So if Cybertron was the same size as Earth, Unicron would be, yeah, see for yourself. So just based on this one shot from the '86 movie, if Cybertron was the size of Earth, Unicron would be 3,000 miles high. Now, of course, that's him in robot mode standing up, so I'm not sure how that relates to him in planet mode. Just using the logic that if you take a piece of paper and then crumple it up, it gets quite a bit smaller. But just to give you another example, our moon is 2,159 miles in diameter. So I don't know about you, but in my mind, he's probably about the same size as our moon in planet mode. I've been Googling around trying to find out how big Cybertron is, and of course it really varies between continuity to continuity. Like, for example, in the Bayformers movie, Cybertron changes size between movies. So yeah, it's kind of all over the place. Generally though, Cybertron is thought to be Earth size or smaller. And let me read you this quote. Dark of the Moon marks the first appearance of Cybertron where the planet is larger than Earth. In all previous incarnations, Cybertron was much smaller than Earth. Transformers Animated previously had the largest Cybertron, which was as large as the moon. But in the Marvel comics, Cybertron is quoted to be roughly Saturn's size, which I think is like 10 times the size of Earth, which is 72,000 miles. At that scale, Unicron is nearly 30,000 miles high. What the fuck? You hear how he dwarfs both Trypticon and Metroplex, which is extra astonishing when you think that he was built by a little chipmunk. There's even one line of thinking out there that as a god, Primus can change his size at will. You know, that whole mass shifting thing. That would probably also apply to Unicron. And in that case, the answer to the question how big is Unicron is, well, it's whatever it feels like. The next pretty obvious thing we need to deal with is his strength. With this size, obviously he's going to be phenomenally strong, having to supplement himself by devouring entire planets and using them as his energy source. He seemingly has this whole internal system dedicated to sifting through the debris and sorting through the rubble. There's this horrific shot of this conveyor belt type thing with all these Cybertronians being dropped into acid, like it's some robotic version of hell. We see him crushing this Junkion ship like it's nothing. We see him ripping Cybertron into pieces with his bare hands. He is, of course, extraordinarily resilient. The Transformers blasting him here with their ships are just like a swarm of mosquitoes to be swatted away. This guy can even handle the destructive power of a black hole, which he absorbed into his body. If he can withstand the destructive forces of a black hole, he might even be able to withstand a blast from the Death Star. His only major vulnerability is the power of his brother Primus, which is contained within the Matrix of Leadership. He was also kept at bay for millions of years when Primus zapped them both into another universe, then rematerialized them inside a metallic planetoid. He was also contained within the Allspark in Transformers Prime, if I remember correctly. So those were a couple of vulnerabilities. Let's talk about his offensive abilities. We've seen him use laser eyes multiple times, and even with one of his eyes poked out, the blast is devastating. And whatever this green energy is, he can blast it out of his mouth as well, like atomic breath. I'm sure I even saw a clip somewhere where he was firing his eye laser after his head was severed, although I can't seem to find that clip right now. Oh, here's a panel. I didn't dream it after all. But the point is he not disconnected from his power source? Is his power source in his head? Is he magic? He's got wings. Now, obviously, wings! They look very cool, But let's just think about that. Why does he have wings? I always assumed he just floats around in space. Honestly, I think it's just an appearance thing. Do not underestimate the power of theater. When your enemies are shitting their pants in fear, they make all kinds of mistakes. The ones who escape go and tell other planets of this fearsome-looking winged beast, and the dread spreads. There will always be some prick going, hold on, has everyone thought about these wings? They're not actually practical. But he gets smushed. And whilst they don't make a whole load of sense in the robot mode, in the planet mode they do form the ring around him, which I'm sure serves some sort of purpose. Lights up, looks nice. The horns serve some practical purpose in planetary mode, gripping and guiding its victims into its huge chompy mouth. He also has a really powerful tractor beam that's not only powerful enough to hoover everything up from a planetary surface, it's seen disintegrating things, which are then sucked into the mouth. Another interesting one is his ability to mind control people. He generally favors bargaining with people, Megatron being the perfect example, offering to spare his life and rebuild his body in exchange for Megatron destroying the Matrix of Leadership. But in this Marvel comic right here, his spirit possessed Rodimus Prime, turning him into a savage beast who threatened to rip everybody's limbs off. In Transformers Prime, he could make his face appear in places you'd never expect and start talking to you. That would definitely freak you out.
Do you know me?
No, seriously, because he formed the center of Earth itself, he could form these gigantic rock avatars. They didn't seem like the hardest things for the Autobots to kill, but he could make lots of them. As I said before, though, he generally seems to favor making a bargain, even if it's a really one-sided bargain. And the Transformers Prime version of Unicron could allow the subject to draw on the power of Dark Energon to form all kinds of different weapons. In Armada, his planet mode looked like a proper moon, and he could unleash a bolt of energy powerful enough to disintegrate Starscream. As I mentioned in the last vid, he can turn his eyeballs around to look into his own head, just so he can maintain eye contact with the ghost that's hanging out in there. Well, now I phrase it like that, it sounds a little bit silly. Weirdly enough, he's not just a destructive force. According to Ask Vector Prime, he had the ability to create what's known as tainted worlds, where everything is backwards and upside down, right is wrong and wrong is right, time runs backwards, etc., etc., ad infinitum. He's also been described to be a being that's able to cross universes at will, whereas his brother Primus kind of exists in all the universes at once. Anyway, I saw it written somewhere once that he'd used this multiversal ability to devour something like 20% of all of creation, of all of universes in the multiverse. He's also been described to have quantum computers in his system that can calculate forwards and backwards in time, which would allow him to see the future by giving him a constantly evolving roadmap of time. Intriguing, but again, take it with a pinch of salt, as I think it might have come from one of the toy bios or something. And the reason I doubt this is if he could see the future, surely he would see his impending defeat and take a different course of action. Surely he would never be defeated. Alright, you guys, let's leave that there for now. Ooh, little belch. Excuse me, that's really not who I am, sorry. Just finishing off my video about RC and all the messed up stuff she's been through, so get subscribed for that, and I will see you very soon for the next one. Thank you very much for watching, and cheerio, bye!